cut through a lot of cultural and otherwise geopolitical kind of, what can you say, inertia of friction, and bring people together in a way that pure commerce or pure alignment of interests probably don't. Yeah. Right?
That is true. You know, when you spoke about the family, when the farmer's suicides happened in Vidarbha, and he actually went, you know, much against the wishes of the Vilasrao Deshmukh government, which didn't want him going from, you know, house to house to find out what the real truth was on the ground. Everywhere there was one lament of his, that the breakdown of the joint family system was what had precipitated this enormous, you know, number of, you know, deaths and suicides. Because he said that, you know, in a joint family, as you very rightly pointed out, nobody lets you down. Everybody has your back. And you are able to shoulder every difficulty. You know, the spoils of everything are shared, and you also are able to kind of share any burden that comes your way. And he said with the, you know, the breakdown of the family, that joint family unit, you had these very, very unfortunate farmer suicides. And of course, the other thing which you brought up, you know, was the value of, you know, out-of-the-box thinking and of having ties abroad. But, you know, Dr. Thiyagarajan, I think the one other thing which strikes me when we talk about, you know, making ties abroad, was he lived in the 1960s when he was doing all these things. You didn't have WhatsApp. You didn't have the internet going faster than you could say jack or think. Everything was on snail mail, on telegrams, which came once in 2-3 weeks or something. So imagine how much he kept up with the research, and he knew what was happening all over the world and how his ties were so global. And I think my book talks about one of the greatest roles of his life, which I think was, you know, hasn't been highlighted as much as it should. The fact that he was a diplomat, and the fact that he had ties which, as I said, his goodwill spread well across India's physical borders. And that is exactly the result. The wheat, you know, the seed import was actually proof of that, you know, of his goodwill, which kind of existed everywhere, at least out of our borders.
Yeah, I think, you know, much as we can value political leadership and you know, decision making under uncertainty, surely a lot of bets are made not on just ideas, but the messenger who brings the idea. So clearly he had the ability to impress upon those who were taking the ultimate call. And, you know, whatever that ability was, it was shaped by continuously learning, continuously keeping updated, and, you know, if not being the smartest person in the room, being the best informed person in the room.
But imagine 24 hours a day. He had his research, but he also had all his correspondence to get through. In fact, I believe he used to carry like stashes of envelopes and, you know, those inland letters. I still remember them. I don't know if they still have it. I don't even know if post office are still working these days. I mean, some have unfortunately shut down everywhere. I think England shut its last post office, I think a couple of months ago, weeks ago. That's what I read. And he used to like send off little notes to everybody from airports, anything, you know, that caught his eye, you know, or sometimes even those were used for congratulatory things. So those ties which ultimately bind were very strong in Dr. Swaminathan's case. And that is why, you know, I think till the time he last drew breath, I mean, he probably had the greatest number of friends everywhere, you know, and you know, I've taken his book to so many embassies. You know, as recently as Tuesday, I met the Vietnamese ambassador who said that, you know, he was a friend of Vietnam. And that's been the constant refrain. He was our friend. He was not just a scientist who belonged in the realm of science. He was a friend.
Yeah, I think, you know, there's two ways of looking at that. I think the first is that you must, both for ideas and in some sense, we're in an interconnected world and, you know, in a global era. But especially after COVID, one of the things we think a lot about is self-reliance or independence. And, you know, food, of course, is very primal. But at least in Tamil Nadu, we worried a lot about oxygen, we worried a lot about vaccines, we worried a lot about drugs. You know, of course, then you start thinking about manufacturing and so forth. So I think the impact of self-reliance on food, when it was seen as a strategic or a geopolitical thing back in the 60s, 70s, has only been accentuated in a world because we had never really seen a kind of pandemic that shut all transactions and all transport and all, you know, trade. So on the one hand, you want to work with everybody, you want to learn from everybody, you want to collaborate with everybody. On the other hand, on the core essentials, you better be self-sufficient, you better be self-reliant. And I think what the Green Revolution did, first in wheat and then in rice and other things, is really give India that ability to withstand and not have, repeats of the famine that really shaped his thinking, the Great Bengal famine. So, you could argue both sides, but in different times and different cases, they make sense. Yeah.
But it was science actually, Dr. Thiyagarajan, at that time in the 1960s, which actually science led to political stability. And the fact that you had the Green Revolution also meant that you could take political decisions independently without the US breathing down your neck. And one of the words in the book is Mrs. Gandhi telling Dr. Swaminathan, Swami, can you do something to get the bloody Americans off my back? I hope there are no Americans here, and I'm sorry if I'm offending, but that's the truth which is there in the book. So I think it was definitely, the harbinger. I mean, I talk about Atmanirbharta, but that Atmanirbharta also extends to political, reliance, self-reliance as well. And I think that dictated so many things which came after Bangladesh's liberation war. Mrs. Gandhi could take that decision because she didn't have the US breathing down her neck. Even Pokhran, smiling Buddha, for that to shoot off into the sky and to dodge, the Americans, that could have only been done because we had food security, which was so essential.
Yeah, I mean, even now we are in an age of tariffs and negotiations based on I'm going to tax you at this rate and that rate, right? So if margins and relative ratios of exports are strategic enough and political enough that governments are worried about re-election prospects or standing, then imagine what it must have been in terms of I can't eat enough. Of course, it was a different scale. So clearly, politics has many faces or facets. Surely the kind of national capability or capacity is the beginning of being able to stand tall in any kind of bilateral or multilateral situation. And most citizens are smart enough to figure that out. And so it makes an impact on your perception of political leadership.
I also think that, the fact that, he did it at a time when I think politics was different. In the 1960s and 70s, politics was very different from the kind of politics we have today. And I think that was, it was, are we heading into uncomfortable waters? I don't think so.
No. I'm not sure it's that different, that's all. So
you don't think it's that different?
I think whenever you have one party have a relatively dominant position, you start to see a bit of things that get less than ideal. In the 60s, 70s, the Congress did it. Now we have a different party doing it. But this is not the stage for politics.
Messaging is the same, the packaging is different. Dr. Thiyagarajan, the messaging is the same, the packaging is different.
The consequences of concentration of power are the same. The hands may be different, that's all. Yeah.
Oh, that's very interesting. I mean, it's... do you think if the Green Revolution were deployed today, sir, you think it would have been as big as it was in the 1960s? Because I think what happened very crucially in the 1960s was Mrs. Gandhi allowed science to take credit for the entire, the onslaught in the fields and all that, which led to such bounty. You think such largesse would exist today or no?
Yeah, again, I don't want to be perceived as making political statement, but I'd say, listen, the Green Revolution, without it, we wouldn't exist. So that is not in discussion here. The question more is about, can we achieve the evergreen revolution, which he talked about,
yes,
which is, both continuous improvement in agriculture as well as agricultural yields and crops and financial outcomes for farmers while being ecologically and biologically much more sustainable. I think that requires a faith in science and a kind of apolitical approach to implementation of the best ideas, irrespective of where they come from. I'm not sure whether we are in the same kind of mindset now. I don't want to say more than that.
Well, you said enough.
Yeah.
You said enough without saying more. But that's your art form. I mean, you're able to say so much without putting out so much over there. But shall we move the topic back to Chennai, which is exactly why we are here and why I wanted to bring the book home. I think Chennai was the setting for a lot of his triumphs, and I think a lot of satisfaction which research essentially gave him in the latter years of his life. And I think a lot of his, and I do believe very strongly that, the Green Revolution was what kind of christened him and what was his greatest claim to fame. But I do believe that he wore so many hats and with such rare aplomb that, his entire, I mean, as I said, when I was writing the book, I felt that, my life amounted to literally nothing. Because look at what one man achieved. Almost any country, 44 countries reached out to him. He was always there. Whether it was Vietnam, Cambodia, he was a, hunger warrior for the world. I don't know how he managed the time. I mean, I wish I'd asked him that. I think I did once. He just said, you have to enjoy what you do. Even if you enjoy what you do, how would you find, his days seemed like 24 hours, had 48 hours packed into it, the way he went on relentlessly.
Yeah, I think it's a rare gift that people have to have such an impact. He was the right person with the right mindset, the right talent, the right work ethic, and at a time when a lot of people needed it. So I think once his credibility was built, doing what he did in India, it was only natural that when he went to the IRRI in the Philippines, that first Southeast Asia and then Africa and other countries started reaching out to him. And of course, the benefit of experience, the benefit of having been there, done that, is twofold. One, it gets easier to do the next time. And two, people know who to call because you're credible. You've already done it once or twice or 5 times, so you get the call.
You have proven history behind you.
It's natural.
Proven history behind you. But I think Chennai was also, he was offered, land by Ramakrishna Hegde in Bangalore to actually start his foundation there. He turned it down because he wanted to, concentrate on coastal systems research, CSR. And the Chennai shoreline is what makes Chennai Chennai. In fact, when I was flying in yesterday, and the day before actually, I was completely, taken aback and completely beholden by the sight which greeted me. I mean, this endless shoreline which you saw. I do believe that is your greatest strength and also beauty. I mean, it was stunning. And that was also one of the reasons why he chose Chennai, to make it his base for the foundation, the M.S. Swaminathan Research Foundation.
Yeah, I'd like to think it had something to do also with coming back home to his own state and his own people. But surely, yeah, his range of interests had expanded, and now in the foundation they do a lot of things with mangroves, with fishermen. They've expanded all the way out into the whole kind of feedstock, fishing, all of agriculture. But I think also it had something to do with the value system, because it was our DMK government that was in power at the time when the grant was made. And I think this notion of liberating and empowering women, of getting equitable access, of making it inclusive and ensuring that the rural parts of the state also got the kind of uplift that the urban areas were getting. That's very close to the philosophy of the Dravidian movement. And so I think our former Chief Minister, as recounted partially in the book, was very, very keen and said, you should not be asking me, I should be asking you.
I should be asking you to do this.
So I think it was, hopefully that had something to do with it, but we are certainly very happy that he chose this. Of course, I know that the foundation works with many, many states. A year or two ago, I had the luxury of attending an event, and there was a minister from Karnataka, Mr. Bairegowda, who had long history. There was a minister from Odisha, the Deputy Chief Minister. So the foundation, we are happy it's located here. They add value around the country in different ways, in different places. And I think it's fortuitous outcome in that sense.
No, I think Odisha actually served as his laboratory for a lot of work. In fact, Naveen Patnaik, who's done the introduction to the book, wrote very movingly about the fact that he turned Odisha into his laboratory. And he'd taken his work there, the corporate hills that they do, the work they do there with the tribals, with ethnotechnology. I mean, this is a foundation which still does yeoman's work. And, it is my request that, when you buy the book, you also help support the foundation as well, and, the kind of work that it does, which I think very few, places and very few people do. And so I think Chennai was, I think it's been lucky. It was, and of course it was homecoming for him. He was, it was also a place which I think where he took his last breath. So this is, he's part of Chennai's psyche and Chennai's soul. So I'm quite grateful to bring the book, home.
Yeah, we're very happy you're here after Delhi. I think it's second event, no?
Yes,
after
this
Delhi,
is the second
so
event. I don't think
it's
any
a
other
fitting
place, I don't think any other place would have had monumental importance for him other than Chennai.
We're glad you think so, and we're happy you're here. And, I think we've had a lot of our friends turn out today, so it's a good evening.
It is a good evening. Do you think we should turn the mic over and see if there are questions that we have in the audience?
I'm not sure I'm qualified to answer, but
neither am I actually. Neither am I. No, don't put me in the spot. Neither am I. Can we have a mic going around if there are any questions? We need youngsters or the people behind the cameras over there. Okay, there are no questions, there is one hand going up. Good, I'm glad to see one hand going up.
Yeah. So I think one question that I had is that considering that, so you are in like pretty influential position right now, I think the work that MS Swaminathan has done over like over 40 to 50 years of his most sentimental period, do you think that we currently have the infrastructure, the platform for like talent right now to actually go about recreating something like this in the current scenario in the state and in the nation?
I'm not sure. Recreating what?
The impact, at least 90% of like some influential or impactful work that, like in the field of agriculture, to be honest.
Yeah, listen, I think I'm not the Minister of Agriculture, and I'm not anywhere. I think I'm number 27 out of 34 ministers in the protocol, so I wouldn't consider myself a senior minister. But if you say, can we make great strides in agriculture? The answer is absolutely yes. I say that as a, 500 years farming in the same place, family, and still with extensive operations across many different types of farming. I think the whole agricultural sector can still be hugely improved. We try many different things, and particularly we spend a lot of money, and we have a lot of programs. In my department, for example, we've been trying to tabulate how many subsidies and grants and how many government, benefit programs we run, and they run into the hundreds. Every government comes and announces some more. Very rarely do you cut back the old programs. And particularly in agriculture, we have tens of programs. We have subsidies for fertilizers, for seeds, for particular, irrigation support, for tools, for rentals, crop support, insurance. So we run many, many, many things. But one of the ways that at least I felt when I was in my old role that we could do a lot better, and some states are doing it, and we are doing it, maybe some better than some, maybe not as well as some, is to make all of these programs focus on the really important thing, which is the farmer, or in the case of this, or in case of other things, the child or the woman. Instead of having department-wise budgets and programs, to actually look at beneficiary-centric ecosystems that we would build, agnostic to which department administered it, and make sure we had continuity so that we were tracking that beneficiary's needs throughout the life cycle of a crop or a child growing to adulthood or whatever the particular programs were. And so we've started to do some of that. Now we have all the way from what we call the Adangal, which is the crop record, to the land record, to crop insurance, to seed subsidy, to fertilizer subsidy, to access to the e-market, the futures market for the product. all of it integrated into one platform. That's the beginning, and I think we can do a lot more of that. Actually, there are some startups in the agricultural space around the country that are doing really good work, because there's still so much that can be improved. And I think technology and dissemination of the right information, the right time, connectivity, these are all tools to much greater outcomes. If we compare either per person productivity or per hectare productivity around the world, we are not nearly in the right place. We have a lot of way to go. And from a political or a philosophical perspective, farmers need to have a much better income model. Many of them are still living hand to mouth despite all these subsidy programs. There's a lot of room to improve. There's, some enterprising people can make a big difference. The government can improve its performance quite a bit also.
There's another question. Yes, gentleman at the back.
Yeah.
I thought the questions about the book for the author, not questions about policy.
No. This is a shared responsibility. Come on.
Priyambada Meenakshi.
Okay, yes.
So I just wanted to say I'm so proud and happy that you brought the book to Chennai.
Thank you.
Where it all started. More than that, I just wanted to ask you, I think we're just concentrating on the book. I want to ask you what inspired you to write and what is it that sparked your interest?
Well, I think simply because, this is not the first book which has been written about Dr. Swaminathan, and certainly won't be the last. But I think what made me look at writing the book was the fact that I hadn't found one in the market which spoke about, the human stories which sparked all these revolutions, which, took him all over the world. Because at the end of the day, for any intervention to work, the bottom line is still the human being at the end who receives that intervention. And I thought he had a gamut of stories in his life, which I think very few, books had touched. So I basically wrote a book I hadn't read before, and, a collection of stories. And that's exactly why the book came to me at the time of the lockdown when we were in Singapore. And, the Singapore lockdown, of course, was a very, very, it was a frightening, scary, it was, lockdown where we had, we didn't have too much freedom to go to a lot of places. And of course, it's a very small place to be. So one had to challenge oneself creatively, and I enjoyed writing. It was actually my husband's idea. He said, instead of bouncing off walls, why don't you write? And he was somebody I'd admired all my life. And I said that, there are many stories there which actually require a patient audience. So, it allowed me then to delve back into the history of India. And as a historian by training, that was almost, too good and too true to pass up. So I wrote a book which I, hopefully people will find enjoyable reading. And I certainly enjoyed writing it. Yes, that was your question. Sorry, we cut you out before, but you have the mic now, you can speak.
Thank you, Minister PTR. My question is about how we can, innovations that address to the collective action. In general, the majority of the innovations are around individual freedom, convenience, and other, how individuals can use the innovation. But the evergreen revolution, which Professor Swaminathan foresees, is how to bring collective action among farmers, especially implementing the good management practices around pest control or irrigation systems. All the individual use technologies are being rapidly taken up. That leads to a rebound effect. But collective action is missing. How economic system and your field, IT field, can contribute to this evergreen revolution with collective action?
Oh, listen, we are continuously trying to bring small farmers together to improve their market kind of power, to learn from each other and best practices, to support each other if they go through difficult times. So I'm saying going back hundreds of years, like where my lands are, which I inherited, as I say, for hundreds of years, there's different associations, like the Ayakattu Urumaya, the guys who have the right to the water at different times. They all come together and they figure out how to share the water in a way that is equitable and not kind of one versus the other. So this is a practice that has been in our culture for a long time. Most states are trying to bring together farmer collectives or what they call FPOs, farmer producer organizations, and provide infrastructure support from the state level, like processing plants, like cooling facilities, like collective marketing. And I've seen that in the Nilgiris, I've seen it in other hill stations, I've seen that in Kadalur when I was an opposition member. I was part of the Public Accounts Committee, so we used to go around, check wherever they put audit reports. So most governments are trying to provide support for collective action and use education of better practices and, less poisonous or less long-term impact pesticides or weedicides, things like that. So that effort is ongoing. Of course, it can be done a lot better and a lot more effectively with technology. And we are actually doing some with AI now, where we can, without having to have some government employee do assessments, whether we can do image processing and have the machine, based on a rich database, start giving advice. So I think the future is quite bright. But a lot of people, almost every state around the country, I can tell, brings together the smaller farmers in some collective, in a cooperative, in a FPO, in some way, and that's the basis for collective action in region by region or area by area, crop by crop usually.
Are there any other questions? Because then I shall just put one question to the audience. Dr. Thiyagarajan, we've had a lot of interest in turning this book, into a film. Now, since we're in Chennai, which turns out probably one of the most, has the most incredible film industry apart from Bollywood. Now, if I were to ask anybody in the audience, who should play Dr. Swaminathan, can we have some answers? I really need help, because this is a question which I have banged my head into the wall. Producers have asked me and I have no idea. Now, come on, Chennai, give me some answers. Who? Surya. Okay, yes. Dr. Thiyagarajan, shall I start with you? No, come on.
I have something very much in common, as Dr. Samya was telling me, with Dr. Swaminathan. I don't go to the movies, so I can't tell actors that far apart.
That's such an easy get out.
Yeah. No, that's true. It's a truth.
Easy get out. That's an easy get out.
Mammootty or Arvind Swamy?
Arvind Swamy is interesting. Actually, it hadn't struck me. Anybody else? Come on. Madhavan. Yes, Madhavan has come up. Yes, has come up. Anybody else? Come on, Chennai. Wake up and give me some names.
Prakash Raj.
Yes, sir.
Prakash Raj.
Prakash Raj, yes, potentially. If there are any, yes, potentially. Yes, sir.
I am Dr. Swaminathan's nephew.
Yes, sir, please go on.
And number one, Dr. Swaminathan was an extremely fair person.
Yes.
Fair in every aspect. Complexion, attitude, passion, everything.
No, yes.
Arvind Swamy will be the right person for this.
Arvind Swamy, does anybody, yes, we know people who know Arvind Swamy sitting in the audience. Yes, Atte? We do. Any other names? Look, I need a Rolodex of names, because he's now not going to give me any. You're going to give me
No.
one
I
name.
just want to say two things. That about 10 days or 2 weeks ago, I met Arvind Swamy for the first time. And I didn't know he was Arvind Swamy. Somebody introduced me. I shook his hand, and then I realized that's Arvind Swamy. I said, "Oh, very nice to meet you, sir." And then I happened to have a friend of mine who is making a movie about his grandfather, G.D. Naidu of Coimbatore. And Madhavan is playing G.D. Naidu. So that movie is going to come out like sometime soon.
So he's the Tamil
I don't know him otherwise, but I know that because my friend told me when I was in Coimbatore last week. That, Madhavan is going to be G.D. Naidu. Yeah,
that's what he said. That's what he said. He said Madhavan is acting in Coimbatore, right? Any other names?
Ma'am.
Yes. Boman Irani. You know what? I'll tell you why Boman Irani has come up, and one producer did mention it, and I'll tell you why that is a little difficult, because Boman Irani is a very tall person. He's over 6 feet, 2.5 inches. And Dr. Swaminathan was, yes, very fair. And as his nephew very rightly pointed out, fair in terms of complexion, fair in terms of, character. But Boman Irani is physically very imposing, and I've seen him. He's very, very tall. I think that might be a little harder, unless of course, you have, AI or something which can make him look smaller. But Boman Irani as a name
much easier to make somebody look fairer.
Or make
That's
something,
more-
yes. I mean,
why
I don't
not
know,
Kamal Hassan,
this is we are in a land where, anything can be done with SFX, special effects.
Ma'am?
And, yes.
Ma'am, why not Kamal Hassan, sir? Here.
Yes, good question, but much too late. Much too late. Hello. I know who I need to turn to, but I shan't put the spotlight on him. Any other names? Others we can go back to Q&As. But this has been fun. No? Anybody from the Malayalam film industry? Because I'm missing names. Yes, Prithviraj, yes. Yes, Prithviraj was a name which even Meera Nair told me that might actually be a useful thing. I have a director sitting in the audience. Hello. Any answers? No. You said Prithviraj. Well, good. So do we have any questions now about Dr. Swaminathan or any suggestions for the film? Sorry, please give him a mic, somebody, because I need to... Sorry, I need to hear you, sir. Yes, sir, tell
Really
me.
serious to come out with the film about this novel, on this novel?
Well, there have been interests, but anything which has to come out is, especially filmmaking seriously takes a lot of time because you have to turn a book into a screenplay. That is in itself a time-consuming business, about a year, 2 years or something. So it's not going to be immediate, but there is hope because I do hope that the stories that are in the book are essentially the stories of it. You need to sit down, dear, the one with the mic. I can't see the gentleman behind you. I think it is true that, filmmaking is a laborious process, but I do hope it gets made because I think his is a story every Indian should know about. And today there are so many, platforms of telling a story. You could take it to Netflix, you could do OTT, you can do films. But films, I think, there is an old-fashioned charm to it. Dr. Thiyagarajan, are you a bigger fan of films or OTT?
I don't go to the theatre, so only OTT. I don't know any better. I only see what comes on my screen in my house.
So OTT. Well, there are many ways of, yes, there is a lot of serious interest, but I think casting has been something which we've struggled with. But I have today got a, huge number of names which I think we can bounce off, producers who are keenly interested. And there have been some. If you know of Chennai producers, I can tap. I'm happy to look into that as well. Kamal Hassan sir as well, right? Right, I'm looking on the left. I shouldn't actually. Yes, so do we have any questions? So no questions. So Dr. Thiyagarajan, all it leaves me to do is to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule, and you've been incredibly busy. You flew in from, ladies and gentlemen, he flew in from Madurai today for this event, and I'm incredibly honored, incredibly privileged that you were here, and that, you're a hard one to pin down, but we were able to do it, and you brought your own magic to the show. So Chennai, please read. And everybody who's leaving, there are refreshments and beverages after, and I think I'm going to turn the floor over to my husband for the vote of thanks.
Good evening, everyone. On behalf of HarperCollins Publishers, the author Priyamada Jayakumar, and Professor M.S. Swaminathan's family, I would like to thank national icon Dr. Kamal Hassan, the Honorable Minister for IT and Digital Assets for Tamil Nadu, Dr. P. Thiyagarajan, members of the press, honorable invitees, and friends and family for gracing us with your presence this evening to celebrate the publication of Professor M.S. Swaminathan's biography in his centennial year. High tea is now being served outside, so please feel free to have a bite, have a drink, and most importantly, don't forget to buy a copy of the book. Yeah? The author will be signing copies outside, so please line up for that. Thank you so much.
Testing.
Start. Infectious disease control.
I'm very bad in Tamil.
உலகத்தில் தொற்று நோய்களுக்கு வந்து ஒரு சொல்யூஷனும் இல்லாமல் இருந்தது. அதுக்கப்புறம் ஒரு 75 வருஷத்துக்கு முன்னால் தான் நம்ம சயின்டிஸ்ட் விஞ்ஞானிகள் தடுப்பூசிகளை கண்டுபிடித்தாங்க. நம்ம நினச்சி பார்த்தோம்னா ஸ்மால் பாக்ஸ், போலியோ அந்த மாதிரி நோய்கள் வந்து எத்தனைவோ லட்சக்கணக்கில் ஜனங்களை வந்து பாதித்தது. அதில் நிறையா பேர் அதில் இறந்து போயிட்டாங்க. நிறையா பேருக்கு பேராலிசிஸ், சைடு எஃபெக்ட்டு, லாங் டேர்ம் ஸ்மால் பாக்ஸ் இருந்தவங்களுக்கெல்லாம் கண் பார்வை போயிருக்கு. அந்த மாதிரியெல்லாம் ரொம்ப கஷ்டப்பட்டிருக்கோம். ஸோ இப்போ வந்து அந்த கஷ்டத்தை நம்ம எதுக்குனால பார்க்கறது இல்லைன்னா இந்த தடுப்பூசிகள்னால தான் இப்போ குழந்தைகளுக்கு வந்து நம்ம தடுப்பூசி போடுறோம். இப்போ டிஃப்தீரியா, போலியோ, அப்புறம் டிபிக்கு பிசிஜி போடுறோம், வூப்பிங் காஃப், மீசல்ஸ், மம்ப்ஸ், இந்த எல்லா தடுப்பூசியும் கொடுக்கறதுனால இந்த வியாதிகள் இப்போது நம்ம பார்க்கறதில்ல. ஆக்சுவலாக நான் வந்து மெடிக்கல் காலேஜில் படிக்கும்போது டெட்டனஸ் நிறையா பார்ப்பேன். நான் நியோனேட்டல் டெட்டனஸ், பிறந்த குழந்தைக்கு வந்து டெட்டனஸ் வரும். அதுக்கப்புறம் அம்மாமார்களுக்கு, கர்ப்பிணி பெண்களுக்கு இந்த டெட்டனஸ் ஊசி ஆரம்பித்த பிறகு இப்போ அந்த நியோனேட்டல் டெட்டனஸுங்கிற வியாதியே கிடையாது. கம்ப்ளீட்டாக அதை இந்தியாவிலேருந்து அழிச்சிருக்கோம். அதே மாதிரி மீசில்ஸ், வூப்பிங் காஃப், டிஃப்தீரியா இந்த நோய்கள்லாம் ரொம்ப ரொம்ப குறைஞ்சுடுது. ஸோ தடுப்பூசி என்ன செய்யும்னா அது வந்து நம்ம உடம்புக்குள்ளே ஒரு ஆன்டிஜன் கொடுக்கும். இப்போ அந்த நோயோட பாக்டீரியாலேருந்து அடுத்த ஒரு பார்ட்டை வந்து நம்ம கொடுக்கறது. ஸோ நம்ம உடம்புக்குள்ளேயே அந்த எதிர்ப்பு சக்தி அது உண்டாகிறது. அது ஆன்டிபாடியாக இருக்கலாம், செல் மீடியேட்டட் இம்யூனிட்டியாக இருக்கலாம். இப்போ வந்து தமிழ்நாடு அரசாங்கம் மூலமாக ஹெச்பிவி வேக்சின் இன்ட்ரடியூஸ் பண்ண போகிறாங்க பெண் பசங்களுக்கு, 10லேருந்து 12 வயசுக்குள்ளே இருக்கிற பெண் பசங்களுக்கு. இது வந்து சர்வைக்கல் கேன்சரை தடுக்கிற ஒரு தடுப்பூசி. உலகத்திலேயே தடுப்பூசினால் தடுக்கிற கேன்சர் 2 கேன்சர் தான், சர்வைக்கல் கேன்சர் அண்ட் ஹெப்பாட்டிக் கேன்சர். இது 2க்குமே தடுப்பூசி இருக்குது. இது ஒரு ரொம்ப நல்ல ஒரு விஷயம். ஏன்னா நம்ம பெண் குழந்தைகளுக்கு தடுப்பூசி நம்ம கொடுத்தோம்னா பின்னால் அவங்களுக்கு வந்து ஒரு ரொம்ப ஒரு சிவியரான ஒரு கேன்சர், எத்தனையோ பேர் அதில் கஷ்டப்படுறாங்க. இப்போது அது வராமல் நம்ம தடுக்கலாம். ஸோ இந்த மாதிரி வந்து தடுப்பூசி ஒன்று கொடுக்கறதுக்கு முன்னால் இதில் நிறையா ஆராய்ச்சி நடந்து இந்த ரெகுலேட்டரி அத்தாரிட்டிஸ் எல்லா டேட்டாவும் செக் பண்ணிவிட்டு அதுக்கப்புறம் தான் அப்ரூவ் பண்ணுறாங்க. அதோட சேஃப்டி என்ன, அதோட வந்து எஃபெக்டிவ்னஸ் என்ன, அது எத்தனை வருஷம் கழித்து அதுக்கு திருப்பி ரிப்பீட் கொடுக்க வேண்டியிருக்கு, சைடு எஃபெக்ட் ஏதாவது வருமா. இப்போ நம்ம சைடு எஃபெக்ட் அப்படின்னு பார்த்தோம்னா தடுப்பூசிகள் எப்போ நம்ம இன்ட்ரடியூஸ் பண்ணுறோமோ அதில் வந்து பெனிஃபிட்ஸும் பார்க்கணும், சைடு எஃபெக்ட் சேஃப்டியும் பார்க்கணும். ஸோ இது வரைக்கும் எந்த தடுப்பூசி அரசாங்கம் எடுத்துகிட்டு வருதோ, எந்த ஊசி வந்து WHO ரெக்கமெண்ட் பண்ணுறதோ அதில் கண்டிப்பாக சேஃப்டி ப்ரோஃபைல் ரொம்ப நல்லா இருக்கும். பயப்பட வேண்டாம். சில சமயம் ஜுரம் வரலாம், அந்த ஊசி போட்ட இடத்துல கொஞ்சம் வலி வரலாம், மைனர் சைடு எஃபெக்ட்ஸ் இருக்கலாம். அது யூஸ்வலாக நர்ஸோ டாக்டரோ தடுப்பூசி போடும்போது சொல்லுவாங்க அதுக்கு என்ன பண்ணலாம் அப்படின்னு. பட் யூஸ்வலாக அந்த மைனர் சைடு எஃபெக்ட்ஸ்க்கு நம்ம பயப்பட வேண்டாம். ஸோ இன்ஃபேக்ட் இப்போது வந்து ஆராய்ச்சினால் நம்மளுக்கு நிறையா நோய்களுக்கு தடுப்பூசி கண்டுபிடிச்சிட்டே இருக்காங்க. இன்னும் சில நோய் இருக்குது, தடுப்பூசி இல்லாமல் நோய்களும் இருக்குது. ஆனால் தொட்டு வியாதியை நம்ம ஒழிக்கணும்னா அது ஒரே ஒரு வழி தான். நன்றி. ஆக்சுவலி ஆட்டிசம்ங்கிற நோய் வந்து இது வரைக்கும் யாருக்கும் தெரியாது அது எதனால் வருதுன்னு. மல்டி ஃபேக்டோரியல் அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. அதில் சர்டன் ஜெனட்டிக் ஃபேக்டர்ஸ், என்வாயரன்மெண்டல் ஃபேக்டர்ஸ், அதில் இன்னும் நிறைய ஆராய்ச்சி போயிட்டுருக்கு. ஸோ இது வரைக்கும் ஒன்றும் ப்ரூஃப் கிடையாது. கண்டிப்பாக தடுப்பூசினால் ஆட்டிசம் வரும் அப்படிங்கிறது எங்குமே ஒரு சயின்டிஃபிக் ஸ்டடியில் அது ப்ரூவ் பண்ணினதில்லை. இன்னும் நிறைய ஆராய்ச்சி தேவை அதுக்கு. ஹெச்பிவி வேக்சின் அதுதான் நான் சொன்னேன். ஹெச்பிவி வேக்சின் இப்போ ஆரம்பிக்க போகிறாங்க. பெண் குழந்தைகளுக்கு 9 வயசுலேருந்து 13 வயசுக்குள்ள பெண் குழந்தைகளுக்கு கொடுத்தா அது வந்து சர்வைக்கல் கேன்சரை தடுக்கும்.
Sir, a couple of words on MS Swaminathan, sir. Couple of words on MS Swaminathan, sir. Okay. Sir, MS Swaminathan Pati. Okay.
Sir, thank you, sir. Thank you. Stand up, sir, please.
Even that 35 $. போயிடும் சார் வந்துடும்
Sir, request, sir. Thank you, sir. Please, கொஞ்சம் request பண்ணுங்க, please. Sir, please, sir. Sir, stand up, போயிடலாம், sir, please. Okay. எடுக்காத Sir, thank you, sir. Please, sir. Please.
Put the phone there. Disease patient.
Figured out how to make it happen. She's relentless in her pursuit of excellence, a tireless worker, and always brimming with curiosity about what's next, what new challenge to take on, what new story to tell. Her book is a testament to that same spirit, combining rigorous research with narrative passion, bringing to life not just a man, but an entire movement that shaped the destiny of our nation. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the unstoppable Priyambada Jayakumar Chaudhary.
Thank you, my dear Aishwarya, for that. Can you hear me at the back? For that stirring yet refreshingly honest introduction. If we have a book today, it's because HarperCollins India wouldn't have it any other way. And if I am unstoppable, it is because of friends and marketing whizzes like Aishwarya herself. She's a marketing gear in motion as they walked a lonely, often hard road with me, all the while infusing my book with a life force of its own as we celebrate one of India's greatest sons, a colossus of Indian science, and in my opinion, one of the greatest Indians who walked these paths since Mahatma Gandhi in his centennial year. Vanakkam, Chennai. Thank you all for graciously hosting me here today as I finally bring my book home. This is where it all started, And when I say that, I'm not just referencing Professor Swaminathan's life, where he was born in Kumbakonam in the erstwhile Madras Presidency in 1925, but the fact that this great city is intertwined with so many of our own lives as well. My husband was born here, and my parents and in-laws both started their married lives here in the 1970s. And in 2003, gear in motion as they
They nourish